So I'm hearing from quite a few of you that you've been calling your Republican House representatives today to yell at them about their votes last night, as you should, but that the staffers have been pushing back, and it almost seems that they have been told to respond in a certain way, which is to say, there's nowhere in that budget resolution that says that Republicans are going to cut Medicaid. You've got bad information. Now, we're going to set aside for a second the fact that staffers are not supposed to argue with you when you call, and I'm just going to tell you exactly what you should say in response, because knowingly or not, these staffers are lying to you. They are gaslighting you, and it's not cool. But before I do that, I want to explain to you very, very quickly, because it's relevant to your response, what exactly a budget resolution is, because it's not the final bill. The budget resolution is sort of the recipe that comes before it. It's a blueprint, if you will. That's what Republicans passed last night. And this blueprint is vague in some ways and specific in others. Let's go back to our recipe analogy for 1 second, because it might make it a little more clear. Say you're baking a pie, and someone tells you, okay, you're going to bake a pie, and in the middle of the pie, you're going to need 2 cups of something, and it has to be a fruit. So they're not telling you what fruit to put in, but they are saying it's got to be 2 cups, and it's got to be a fruit. Think of the budget resolution a little bit that way. The budget resolution spells out 2 things: the amounts that they want cut and from which committees exactly. And each of those committees, remember, oversees very specific departments. Here is where we get into the trick that Republicans are trying to play. The resolution basically says for every committee, we need it to be 2 cups and we need it to be a fruit, but it doesn't spell out which fruit it is. That part comes later. So what Republicans' tactic today seems to be is to tell people, well, we never said anything about apples, we just said fruit. But we can easily infer what fruit it is. For example, the budget resolution mandates $880 billion in cuts under the Energy and Commerce Committee. Energy and Commerce, it's 2 huge ticket items, Medicare and Medicaid. Covers a couple of other small things, but there's literally no way that you get anywhere close to $880 billion without cutting massively into Medicare or Medicaid. Now, for whatever it's worth, Trump has promised up and down to not touch Medicare, and that means Medicaid is the only thing they can cut. Similarly, they haven't come out and had to say we're going to cut supplemental nutritional assistance program, but this budget resolution has instructed Republicans on the Agriculture Committee to cut at least $230 billion. They have to. And the one thing in there that everybody knows Republicans are dying to cut is SNAP. So they don't have to say the words yet, and in fact, this budget resolution doesn't require them to say any kinds of words like that. It just gives them amounts and tells them which committees need to go and find those amounts to cut. And here's the thing, those amounts are binding. So if the Energy and Commerce Committee, for example, cannot find $880 billion worth of cuts, the entire package falls apart. They all need to stick to those numbers, which means that they are absolutely going to cut Medicaid, Medicare, or some combination thereof. Now, I want to be very clear that this has not happened yet, and it's not a foregone conclusion, because the Senate also has to agree to this, and they all have to get on the same page. And right now, the Senate is in a very different place. So we can still stop this, but don't let House Republicans tell you that it's not what they want to do, because it is exactly what they want to do. This leads me to your answer. When you talk to the staffer, and the staffer says, well, there's nowhere in this budget that it talks about cutting Medicaid. You're being fed lies by Democrats. What you can say in response is, okay, then I have a question for you, and I'd like my answer in writing. Where will Republicans get the $880 billion that they are now mandated to cut under the Energy and Commerce Committee, if not from Medicaid? The staffer will say, okay, someone will get back to you, but they can't. There's nowhere else for them to get that money. Republicans are going to lie about what they're doing because it's unpopular and hateful, greedy and cruel, and because the only reason they want to do it is to cut taxes for the very richest people in this country, the 0.1% richest people. Don't let them gaslight you. Don't let them lie to you. Know your facts before you get in, and the facts are they're coming for Medicaid. Don't let them off the hook. Thanks.